Hello, welcome to the new season of the MLS podcast. Back after a massive hiatus. Hey, Tom.
Yeah, it's been a while. Fortunately, it's been very quiet globally, so there's not been much going on for us to talk about or survive through. So
yeah. You know, it's not, nothing's been happening across the world at all, so it's all good. I'm Luke, by the way. I'm one of the hosts, and Tom Billis is the other one.
Hi, and I'd like to personally apologise for my abysmal Twitter presence.
Yeah, I was just saying before we came on air, Tom was just like, explain to me why I need Twitter, because I don't ever go on it. And basically any single time I've posted through this podcast, through the page, I always at you in it, so there's your Twitter handle, so people have then started following you, and then it's just like, oh, you follow nobody.
Yeah, I'm basically a bot, a Twitter bot. That doesn't even do anything. I'm less than a Twitter bot. I'm going to try and do better because obviously Luke and I were talking before we started this podcast. We started at the weirdest time in the middle of, or almost at the end of playoffs. And so we're going to be a bit more consistent this season, try and podcast, weekly or bi-weekly alongside the MLS actually progressing through the season.
I think we try weekly, but it may end up being bi-weekly. I don't know, but regular anyway.
We're doing our best.
It's going to be a regular podcast where we can. So yeah, welcome to the new season, and obviously the new season of MLS hasn't started just yet, and there's a few things that we're just going to talk about, I guess, for this first opening episode. So we're going to talk about when it starts and that sort of thing for any people who've never really watched MLS or are aware of it. We're going to look at some opening fixtures, look at some transfers, and then also kind of just talk about some things that we want to discuss with the season starting very soon. So
yeah, and one of the reasons that we started doing this podcast is that obviously we're both English. I live here in Colorado in the United States, but Luke is still in England. But we both have spent time in the US, and we have an affinity towards MLS, and we know that the general attitude is like, isn't that weird American soccer league? That's weird.
That's the one that David Beckham went to that time when his career was on his arse, and it's actually, that was kind of the truth, but also it's also not now.
But yeah, so it's an interesting soccer league to watch, and Luke and I wanted to podcast about how it is not quite as backward, and it's kind of misunderstood, I think, and there's a lot to enjoy about MLS. So for me personally, living in Colorado, I can't go see the Broncos because I'm not made of money, and I don't much care for basketball or hockey, but the Rapids are extremely affordable, and obviously I've grown up as a football fan, soccer fan, if you prefer, and the league here is really fun to watch. And it's good to go to live sport, and at the Rapids Stadium, which is the unfortunately named Dick's Sporting Goods Stadium, you can get a really great seat. There's great Colorado craft beer. Our jersey this season, which I will be talking about in a little bit, but the away jersey is absolutely gorgeous. It's just a really fun league to follow, and Luke and I both felt like it needed a bit of a better representation. So for our many listeners across the globe, that's what we're doing. That's why we're here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, the other thing was that I was kind of surprised of how far we've kind of stretched. We made 4 episodes of the first season. Before then, obviously, the MLS shut down because, Columbus Crew won it. And then you kind of go off into Christmas going, yeah, no MLS until at least March. And then I tweeted out the other day, because obviously I was getting ready for this episode we were going to record, nearly on 400 all-time listens across all episodes, which I think is pretty good going, which is about 100 an episode, which is pretty
considering good. You're doing all of the social media network, it's extremely impressive. Yeah. So, we should say that the season begins Friday, April 16th.
That's right.
First
that was
two
the
games.
First thing I was going to do. Yeah.
Houston and San Jose get us started. Houston sporting a very spiffy new badge.
There's been a couple of rebrands.
There have, yeah, and then Seattle, Minnesota is later that same evening, so 7:30. I think that's Mountain Time, so goodness only knows what time that is for you. 2:30 in the morning, probably.
Yeah,
I was looking
at the when you go on the MLS Soccer website, the official website. it gives you it in your local time, obviously, because it uses your GPS. So a lot of it is 0130, and I'm just kind of like, maybe I'll just record that one.
I think that's probably smart.
Yeah. So a lot of it unless my newborn, since my son's grown up since we've recorded last, he's now nearly 6 months old, which seems a little bit mental that when we started recording he was only a month old, but time does fly, as they say, as you're having fun. It does a bit. If he is having a sleepless night, he may want to be rocked to sleep by the soothing sounds of my voice shouting at the TV as Seattle concede another late goal. It's an interesting game, that Seattle-Minnesota opening game, because that was the last kind of game that Minnesota played last season, because they were 2-1 up, weren't they?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, of course. Yeah, and casting our minds way back, they were winning with what was it? Only 10 minutes or so to go.
It was about 15 minutes, I think.
15, and Seattle flipped it on its head. That's right. Yeah, I've forgotten about that.
So that's a nice. The Minnesota will be wanting to.
Yeah, be chomping at the bit for some revenge.
They will. And then obviously the next few games you've got some interesting ties there. So you've got an all-Canadian tie with another club who's had a rebrand. Club de Foot Montreal.
Yeah, but no longer with Thierry Henry, right? He resigned.
Yeah, he's no longer there. I was never really sure of Henry as a coach. It's a bit of an odd one for me. Obviously, amazing player and legend for Arsenal and all that sort of thing. But I don't know if it ever really because sometimes there are those amazing players where they just never make good coaches, and maybe it's just not developed enough in his time. Yeah, he'll get another shot at it and all of that, but I just don't.
The jury's still out, I think.
Yeah.
He was linked quite heavily with that Bournemouth job, but he didn't take it. And then when he resigned from the position in Montreal, he cited being separated from his family, which obviously has got to be pretty tough. I think they were still in France or possibly in London. I'm not certain, but they weren't with him in Montreal, and that's a heck of a distance.
It would be tough, yeah. And obviously, COVID would make it even more difficult. So Montreal, Toronto is the opening.
Yeah, that kind of kicks off the Saturday, and then Orlando play Atlanta. That could be interesting. The one that I circled is 4 p.m. Colorado time is LAFC against Austin.
Yes, I've also got a star next to that.
New to the league this season, new franchise. Isn't Matthew McConaughey involved?
Certainly is. Yeah.
Is he the head of the board, or
he's
not really sure?
If he's one of the owners, but he may have just kind of got around the boardroom table and gone.
I don't know about you, and possibly this is excellent. This could just be me. But do you not get strong Gondor vibes from the badge for Austin FC?
It is quite Lord of the Rings.
Gondorian. It's like a shield with a very beautiful artistic tree on it. If that tree was white, they'd definitely be hearing from the Tolkien estate.
So I didn't know if they had
Lionsgate.
If they had often they have a Latin phrase on a football club. It would just be.
I don't see one.
If it's a shame, it's a mixed trick. It should just be where were you were Gondor when Gondor fell, but in Latin.
Or something that Sean Bean might say.
Bastard.
Well, yes, that does seem to be what he says most of the time. Any Lord of the Rings reference, but I had penciled that one. I mean, LAFC were one of the most exciting teams to watch. Do you know Carlos Vela up top got in a bit of beef with Zlatan last season about who was better than who. But he's certainly put up big numbers last season for LAFC, and that should be an interesting baptism of fire for Austin to start their season off with.
I do like LAFC just for the fact that whenever I watch them, it's always entertaining because they often score beautiful goals, but at the back they are shoddy. They really are not drilled very well, and I don't know if it's a Bob Bradley thing. I don't know if he is actually still there. I assume he was. I haven't read anything that he wasn't, but it kind of seems like a lot of the shape is kind of just drawn towards the Kevin Keegan Newcastle style of, we'll just try and score one more than you.
Just get another attacker in. Bob Bradley is still there.
Yeah.
So one of the transfers that I highlighted as one to look out for is Kim Moon Hwan has joined. He's a South Korean fullback, and also I think he's played at centre back. possibly might be able to tighten up that leaky defense a bit. But they definitely are going that Newcastle route from
They certainly need it.
The 96 season Newcastle.
Yeah, 95, 96 season. I mean, I think with a tight defence, they would be some threat, but they just never really were. They kind of did quite well in lots of games.
I would definitely suggest that they're one of the teams that if you're coming into MLS without really any team to follow, or you're not sure what game you should watch from each weekend, LAFC, whoever they're playing, based off their last season performance, is definitely one to keep an eye on, because they would regularly run up a high scoring, lots of 4-3s, 3-2s,
Definitely.
3-3s.
I remember their
like
first derby with LA Galaxy, where I think they were 3-1 up or 3-2 up or something, and then Zlatan came on and it finished 4-3 to the Galaxy.
4-3, didn't it?
Yeah.
Zlatan scored a bananas volley.
And then a header to win it as well, yeah.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
That was some game, that. Really good.
So, other games to look out for, I mean, obviously we didn't say this at the top of the program. My team, obviously, being here in Colorado, is the Rapids, Colorado Rapids. And you are a Seattle Sounders fan because of your Seattle ties with your family, and also you spent some time in Washington.
Yep.
Colorado start the weekend, or start MLS away to Dallas.
Yes.
So get to see that sweet, sweet green and white kit, which I'm pretty excited for. Definitely going to pick up one of those before the next home game.
Can you guys go into stadiums, by the way? Can you guys go in stadiums?
So there will be some people in the crowd, I think, for the home opener, which is not this weekend we're discussing, the 17th. It's the following weekend, I think,
you
on the
bastards.
26th.
That's
so maybe
another
2
thing.
weekends
That, if you get up and watch Sky and watch MLS, if you're in my country, or you're watching it on ESPN or Danzan or whatever it is over in the States, you'll actually see a genuine football game with fans there, rather than the trap, like, rubbish that you'd see on the Premier League where they pipe in the noise. So hopefully you actually have an actual atmosphere where you're watching MLS games, which is only a good thing, because until the end of the season, it's just going to be awful over in the English leagues.
Not wanting to put too much shade on Colorado's turnout, but the stadium isn't often full. But hopefully that will change.
Do you not think it's going to be the case where you've had people not been able to go to sports, so they're going to want to go to more things that are available?
Yeah, I can see that being a factor for sure. And as discussed earlier, the Rapids are a lot more affordable sporting option.
Yeah.
Although right now the Nuggets and the Avalanche are both killing it as well. But
success breeds success, though, right?
Well, it sure does. And also, Dick's Sporting Goods Park, for all it lacks in an intimidating name, it makes up for. And there's not really a bad seat in the house, and in the sun, it can be pretty glorious. And today is it's basically 80 degrees, which in Celsius is, I don't know,
20 odd.
Sorry, I've assimilated.
It's like early 20s.
It's very pleasant. So if it's going to be this weather in a couple of weeks' time, and it would certainly be better than the home opener 2 years ago, which was in a sideways blitz.
Yes, I remember you talking about that, actually.
That was amazing. Fun game, but absolutely preposterously cold and terrible, terrible football conditions for sure.
Was it?
So I have that one starred to look out for as well. Nashville Cincinnati is an interesting game. I'm going to get to Cincinnati a bit later on in the discussion here,
I also had that starred because there were two new teams last year that never really did a lot. Nashville had this run
last
towards
season
the
was
end, but it was a bit of a washout.
Last season was not a great season to enter anything, really, was it?
No.
So I have some sympathy, but that's two of the newer franchises facing off against each other. That's closing out the Saturday night, 6:30 over here. So that one could be interesting. And then another game I have two kind of highlighted on the Sunday. Miami into Miami. David Beckham's into Miami. David Beckham and Phil Neville's into Miami. Face off against LA Galaxy. Excuse me. So that one could be an interesting one to watch. All I have written on my notes about Phil Neville is the coach of Inter Miami. Discuss, which
we can
we'll probably get into in a little
soon.
bit.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting chat.
Yeah, that should be an interesting one. And obviously Inter Miami were a new franchise for last season as well. So that's a always interesting to keep an eye on those. Something that doesn't happen in English soccer, right? You never get, or you rarely get, a team put in at the top level that is just a brand new team with players that they basically take off other players through their MLS expansion draft.
Yeah.
So they take them from other clubs.
Yeah.
And it does create a kind of interesting curveball. Obviously, there's been a couple of things like that in England where MK Dons, whom I know are not super popular people.
Jesus, man! Don't have a go at franchise FC. God, they're the word you don't say. They don't. Sometimes teams on Twitter don't even refer to them as the name MK Dons.
So this, for me, is one of the biggest differences between English sports and American sports. Is American sports move franchises all the time. The Rams moved to LA from St. Louis 2 seasons ago. This is American football we're talking about. If you're not interested, you can just plug your ears for a second. And then they, prior to that, had already been in LA and were moved to St. Louis. So that happens regularly. That's the reason, for instance, the Arizona Cardinals football team play in Arizona, but the St. Louis Cardinals play baseball in St. Louis, which is not in Arizona. This because these franchises move all the time. So people here are not nearly so, I'm trying to think of a way, elitist, I suppose, or snooty might be perhaps about franchises kind of popping up out of the ground. The Rapids are one of the founding MLS teams, and they have existed since 1996 in MLS. So, we're not talking about the same storied histories of like Preston North End being the oldest club in the universe.
I think when if you try and compare and go like, oh well, it's not like English soccer, football, it's therefore it's shit. I think some people are of that mind because they've only ever been kind of brought up with that. I mean, I'm not a massive American football fan. I don't really profess to have any other real. I don't mind watching ice hockey, but I'm not really massive on other sports in the US. But because I have watched MLS for a long time, I actually think it's more of I just treat it like a completely, not a different game, but I don't try and compare it with English leagues the same. I think that's one of the things that if you are new to the league, you want to try and do that. You just kind of take it as its own. And one of the things that I read recently, I don't know if you saw this too, you may have done, there was a piece in The Athletic by a couple of writers where it was about the one season where Hawaii had a franchise, Team Hawaii, in 1997. 1977, should I say, in the late 70s.
I've definitely got to go check that out.
Honestly,
that sounds really interesting.
It's such a good read. It will take you probably around 20 minutes to read it, but there's a couple writers. There's Matt Pence, I think it is, who usually covers like the Seattle games, and then there's also Pablo Iglesias Mora, I think you pronounce his name. Both of them are staff writers for The Athletic, anyway, and they did this in-depth piece where they interviewed people who played, just a load of journeymen, 5 of them from West Ham, just kind of we just want the high life basically. And they were playing in a stadium where it was literally so hot, like on the false grass, like the AstroTurf, that it would melt the soles of the boots after each game.
Yeah, I can believe that. Holy cow.
But yeah, that's if you subscribe to The Athletic, which you may do, the plushy connoisseurs amongst you of sport, you may have the monthly subscription to The Athletic. That is certainly a read that I would suggest. It's fascinating.
I've bookmarked it. I found it.
Yeah.
I am one of those hipsters that reads The Athletic.
Honestly, it'll be the best thing you read this year. Honestly, it's really good.
All right. Well, that's all right. That's a high bar.
Well, sporting wise, obviously.
Okay. Well, I mean, even then, I read a lot about sport, so high praise.
So obviously, there's a couple of other games I think we missed. There's New York Red Bulls sporting Kansas City.
Oh yeah, that's on the Saturday. Yeah, that looks quite interesting.
And then the Chicago Fire versus the Revs, the New England Revolution. They play also.
Yeah.
And then
I also highlighted Columbus, Philadelphia, because Columbus being the defending champ.
Yeah, that's the penultimate game of the weekend. Obviously, the Crew won the MLS Cup last year, so they will be the team to beat for a lot of people. I think they kind of weren't I don't know. They weren't. There's no like glorious stars in there necessarily, but some very very good players and kind of understated. I think they just kind of went under the radar and
For the crew.
yeah,
Yeah, well, so leading us in quite nicely to transfers, Bradley Wright Phillips has he was at LAFC last season, but he has joined Columbus.
yeah.
I just pulled up his stats
That
because
was
there may be. Oh, sorry.
no. That was an interesting one because he was at LAFC previous, and before that he was at the Red Bulls. I want to say, but he's got.
He was at
he
Red
has
Bulls.
got. I know you're going to talk about his record, but his scoring record is superb.
Yeah, it's so 214 games, mostly for the New York Red Bulls, but he got, I think, 18 games last season for LAFC, 116 goals. And English fans may remember from a time long since past when he was playing in kind of the lower tiers.
Played for Charlton, I believe.
Yeah, among others, I think he had quite a few, sort of a journeyman career, came over to New York Red Bulls, I think similar frame-wise to Beckham, but with a lot less fanfare. But to be honest, he's been one of the best ever imports to MLS.
Yeah.
I mean, that record that's a goal that's better than a goal every other game.
I think the only one to really better it in terms of goals per game is Joseph Martinez from Atlanta.
But it's a much smaller sample.
But yeah, he's got like, I think there's 80 games he's played. He's scored something like 70 odd goals, which is just unreal. But he didn't play at all last year. That may be something I get to later on
my
to
list. Yeah. Mine on my list also. So yeah, I mean, those are the opening games. For me, the two that I really highlighted was the Columbus, just to see how they begin their defense of the title, and the LAFC Austin for the new boys against the high-scoring, freewheeling LAFC.
And there was one more game as well. Vancouver versus Portland. That was on the Monday, right. I believe.
To close out the week.
Yeah,
No, it's still... Well, it's Monday for me, definitely, but
when
it's
I've looked
still,
at it, it's
Sunday night.
So those are the opening fixtures. So obviously, a lot more teams this year. 27, I want to say. Is that right? With expansion coming next year, the year after, and the year after that.
Yeah, and there will be this season. There was a bit of a debate as to when it would start. Mm-hmm. We're starting obviously on the weekend of the 17th, or
16th,
I guess the day before the 16th. But there's going to be 17 home and 17 away games for every team. So 34 game season,
which
should be. I mean, do we want to do something really stupid and make a prediction for who's going to win? Before a ball's even been kicked?
Do we choose an Eastern and a Western for the final? Is that probably better?
Yeah, that's probably a good shout. Atlanta, probably a reasonable nod. Columbus might reprise. There's a few teams, I think. Orlando City are an interesting team to think about also. Yeah. Barnsley have one of their players on loan now.
They will not want to give him back, I think.
They won't. He's been excellent. I'm not sure if it's Dyke or DK.
I believe it's pronounced.
Okay, yeah, that's what I figured. He has been tearing it up.
By the way, I did love that when he arrived, the people, not necessarily Barnsley fans. I mean, I know a couple of Barnsley fans, but the mood was very, so what, you know? Underwhelming is probably the word. And they are very potentially, if they keep their run up, potentially going to be in the Premier League next year.
I hope they do, to be honest. Yorkshire needs some representation up there.
Yeah. I mean, I remember back in the 90s when Barnsley were in the Premier League, 97.
Yeah, was that Danny Wilson?
Wilson was coach, he got him promoted twice.
Neil Redfern.
Yeah, there was...
trying to remember who else was there.
I remember they got absolutely tonked 7-0 at United one year when they went down, but I'm sure they were in a couple of seasons in the Premier League around that time.
I think they only had one. I can't remember, but I am playing a Football Manager game as Barnsley not literally as we speak, but I have one on the go.
So
they're fifth in the championship right now. Anyway, DK has been. I think he scored 9 goals.
Yeah, well, he's only played about 15 games, so because he only arrived there in January, didn't he? So
and I think he took a little bit of time to get into the
I believe it's a loan though.
Yes, it is. Yeah, so he at the moment is slated to come back to Orlando at the end of the season. And I'm reading on MLS.com, soccer.com, that they are Orlando wouldn't sell him for less than $20 million.
Which Barnsley would probably pay if they got in the Premier. It would be a loss
he's
to the
been that
league.
good,
I think
so
it would be a loss to the league if he went to the Premier League. But it would also be a big statement as to say, like, look at this talent that MLS is producing and can do it over in other shores.
Yeah, and there's been quite a lot of players leaving academies, especially Dallas. So Weston McKennie obviously has kind of exploded into the for Juventus this season, and he was he at Schalke prior to that? Was that?
I know he played in the German league. I think he got busted for an illegal party the other day with a couple other Juventus players. So he's living the high life.
Well,
I don't think he'll be the only one who was there.
He's an FC Dallas player or trainee, I think, and there were a few others who've been picked up. Serginho Dest has broken through at Barcelona this year after transferring from Ajax.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a few MLS-ish prospects, although I don't know that Dest was actually an MLS player ever, but some Americans breaking through, and I think a lot of European big clubs are looking to MLS for kind of untapped talent, which is kind of a drum I've been beating for a few seasons, and I feel like you have as well. There's some value in this league.
So, if we go to transfers then.
Yeah.
Where did you want to start?
Well, so the thing I wanted to highlight was something that has been kind of a trend in MLS for the last few seasons for quite a lot of the teams, and that is looking to South America for players to bring in. So there were three that in particular that I highlighted. Starting with FC Dallas, they signed a Colombian winger named. Listeners should know that
your Hispanic pronunciation.
I was going to say my
good.
Yeah, it's. I would go so far as to say it is dreadful, or even perhaps abysmal. So apologies, Jader O'Brien. I'm not sure. It could be any of those or none. I apologize. He is a 25-year-old Colombian winger at his previous club, which I have written here and will absolutely butcher for you now. Aguilas Doradas, I think.
Is this,
could be wrong.
Where in South America is this?
So this is in the Colombian league.
Oh, okay.
And he played 2 seasons there, 61 games, 24 goals. So I'm imagining he's sort of one of inside forward type.
Yeah.
To Dallas FC or FC Dallas, excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
I think that he could set the league on fire a little bit. Thomas Pochettino, who I assume is no relation to that Pochettino.
I think he is, isn't he?
Oh, well, maybe
he
is.
I'm sure I've heard of it.
Was he
in the Argentinian league?
Yes.
Yes, because Pochettino is Argentinian. And he was the guy who Michael Owen dived over for the penalty in '98.
No, that can't possibly be right.
Oh no, the 2002 one. Sorry, when Beckham scored against Argentina in 2002, Pochettino gave that penalty away.
That can't be this Pochettino because he's only 25.
No, the manager. Pochettino.
Oh, okay.
So it's I don't know if it's it is some kind of relation. I'm sure it is. I'm sure it's been muted on Twitter. I've seen a couple of people mention him. But where's he going?
He's off to Austin.
Right.
He got 44 appearances in the Argentinian top flight. He's 25. He's a central midfielder, so he's probably going to be a pretty important fixture for them. And then the last one that I wrote, aside from Bradley Wright Phillips, who I already mentioned, although I think that's a shrewd pickup by Columbus because he knows this league and it's going to reduce the pressure on Zardes.
Well, him and Zardes up front is also interesting.
It's a tasty, proven MLS strike partnership right there.
Certainly.
But the last one I highlighted is a Brazilian from Sao Paulo, the name of Brenner, who's gone to FC Cincinnati. Now, he's 21. He scored 13 goals in 32 appearances for Sao Paulo. But the main reason I think he's going to be interesting, and this is going to bleed into something that we're going to talk about later, and possibly you had this on your list too, but Cincinnati only scored 12 goals last season.
Yeah, it was very poor, wasn't it?
12.
Mm-hmm.
I had to double check. I read it and then was like, no, that can't possibly be good. No, that was correct. 12 goals in the league last season.
Yeah.
And they played 23 games. So,
yeah,
holy smoke, it can only go up from there. But the pressure's on Brenner, that young man, to bang in a few. I always have an affinity for Brazilians from Sao Paulo. Shout out to Juninho here, I think.
Obviously, for your Middlesbrough fans over there.
Middlesbrough connections for all two of us other Middlesbrough fans out there. So I'm hoping that he takes to the league quite well, but there's quite a lot of pressure there, surely, because holy smoke. And that goes along with Luciano Acosta, who fans of the league will know has been a DC United fixture for a long time. He's played 126 appearances for DC, scored 24 goals and got another 28 assists. So he's proven in this league. But the pressure's on both those two guys to do something about that. I mean, I guess it's a low bar to clear, but holy smoke, if they don't, that's going to be bad news. So those two guys got their work cut out for them. I think it's going to be very interesting to follow. I kind of want to keep a running Cincinnati goal count going with each podcast just to check. So those are the ones that I thought were interesting. What did you have?
I had a couple. I kind of focused on one club, and I'll kind of focus. It's not Seattle, by the way. It isn't Seattle. Before anyone goes, well, he's a Seattle fan who's going to focus on that. No, because they didn't really make any signings. They've had about
the Rapids didn't make a great deal either.
Yeah. One of the ones that I thought was quite interesting, because you picked up on the Bradley Wright Phillips move to Columbus Crew. They also picked up Kevin Molina.
Yes, that's true.
From Minnesota United. And that's going to be an interesting one, because I thought he was kind of crucial to the way they played. The way that they got to the semi-final, kind of, they went under the radar a lot as well, I think. But they played quite exciting football, and he was,
they did, yeah.
He was somebody who could finish as well. He was like a goal scorer who could actually find the back of the net.
Yeah, well, he was nominated for the Comeback Player of the Year award, which is actually an award I wish they'd adopt in the Premier League. But he scored 21 goals over 67 games for 3 seasons of Minnesota, and he was at Orlando before that.
One in three. It's a decent record.
Yeah, overall his MLS record is pretty good. Looks like about 180 appearances and about 60 goals, so it's not too shabby. And along with Zardes and Wright Phillips together, the three of those is quite an interesting front line. How you make it work is probably an interesting question. But
yeah, it depends if they play two up front, but they often don't. They often play the striker with the inside and right forward.
Well, and Zardes has a tendency to start as a winger, or more of a winger, and then drifted centrally. So you've always got that option as well. And then Bradley Wright Phillips through the centre. It's going to be an interesting forward line to complement their championship.
Yeah, that was an interesting one.
Be interesting.
I did pick up for English fans among us, Ryan Shawcross.
Oh, yes.
Has gone to Inter Miami. I presume that's the English link with Phil Neville.
Well, yeah, this is more of a throwback to how perhaps most English people see MLS
as a retirement,
being a retirement league. Ryan Shawcross, long-time Stoke City defender, wasn't it? A Man United trainee also way back. Has joined the Phil Neville revolution of Inter Miami. So that certainly is one to keep an eye on. I remember reading it on their website as the announcement and feeling rather underwhelmed.
A little sick.
Well,
it's like, ugh, really?
I don't necessarily have a particular problem with Ryan Shawcross. Was he the player who broke Aaron Ramsey's leg? Was that him?
It was under
it wasn't intentional, but it was
Stoke.
It was a terrible tackle, but it wasn't intentional. The thing that was harder to take was the Stoke fans booing Aaron Ramsey for having the temerity to have, I guess, fragile bones. I'm not really sure what the booing is.
I think it was a fairly sizable tackle. I think it had broke.
It was a robust challenge, but I don't think it was badly intended. No player, apart from Roy Keane, ever really intends to go in with the actual intention to shatter someone's femur. But it's more of it's hard to sell that as a glamour signing if you've got a lot of context, but he is an enormously experienced defender. And I always thought he probably should have got at least 1 or 2 England caps in there.
Certainly.
And he never did.
I looked at the other team I looked at was Atlanta United. They've splashed the cash a little bit in comparison to other teams. They've raided Olympia, River Plate, and Argentinos Juniors to get Sosa, Lopez, and Ibarra. So they've also tapped into that South American market, which they often have done, and they've done very, very, very successfully with Josef Martinez, who are
and Miguel Almiron,
who's now at Newcastle,
moved to Newcastle.
Yeah. Also, there was the other Martinez, who's now left Atlanta United. He's gone abroad. I've forgotten where he went. He's gone somewhere in the Middle East. Big bucks, tax-free, all of that sort of stuff. I'm sure he's a big draw for some of those people.
Decision.
I was always gutted when Sebastian Giovinco did that and went to go and play in the Saudi League for massive bucks at Al Hilal, and I just thought at 26, 27 at the time, what a waste of a player who just lit up the MLS and he was special, and he could have done it over here, no doubt.
He could have kept doing it over here. Yes. He was certainly doing very well.
He was most valuable player, I think, this season. 2016, I want to say 17, maybe it was the season after that. But he was very, very impressive. And then there was one more that I was going to look at, and I'm not 100% sure of the current state of this. It was around Seattle Sounders, but it was one player in particular because he transferred to Swansea and then got a season-ending injury.
Jordan
Morris. I was disappointed for him. I was excited when I heard about the fact that he was going to be playing in the English leagues, Welsh League, British League. And then it all kind of just went a little bit wrong, didn't it?
It's his second ACL injury.
He was out. He was out for a year for Seattle a couple of seasons ago, and it took him a while to get back into the swing of things. But it was a loan transfer anyway, and I know he's come back to Seattle since then, presumably because he's still actually a Seattle player and he'd prefer to have his treatment with the medical staff that he knows better. But that's an interesting one. João Paulo, who was in the middle for Seattle, has also gone. He's gone to Botafogo. So that was a loan deal. I don't know if they then are going to sign him permanently. I know that was muted. It may have happened. But it may have originally been like a loan until the end of 2020, and I think they had an option to buy him. Whether they've exercised that, I don't know. I think they have. But they've also signed, Seattle, this is the last one, Freddie Montero, who have had 2 different spells at the club 10 years ago, went to play for Sporting Lisbon. And
didn't he also pop back up at... Did he go to Minnesota, or am I misremembering
He went to Vancouver last season. And he didn't do an awful lot there, I must say, except score against the Sounders. So they've signed him too. So they haven't spent...
Did he celebrate? That's
no, he didn't. He grabbed the ball and ran to the middle of the field again because they were 2 or 3-1 down at the time. So I'm not sure it was an important goal. But
I'm not sure where I got that Minnesota connection from. Sorry, yeah, you're totally right. He was at Whitecaps.
Yeah, he kind of went all over in South America again, and then he did bits in Portugal for a lot of time. But he's
Sporting.
Sporting Lisboa. So he's back in a Seattle shirt, which should be interesting.
That will be interesting. I wanted you've done it, so I don't feel quite so bad doing it now. The Rapids didn't really make too many big signings. They did pick up Michael Barrios from who's at FC Dallas, 29, Colombian forward. But most of the more exciting thing for me as a Rapids fan is there's a lot of youth talent being brought through. So
that's the way to go.
Sam Vines has had a couple of really good seasons. He broke into the US men's national team. He was in the Olympic squad, although it's probably not such a good thing to big that up as he didn't make it to the Olympics through the qualifiers. But he's from Colorado Springs. Then there's Darren Yappy has been signed. He's a homegrown talent from Denver. He's a 16-year-old forward. There's a Yaya Toure, not that one,
Not that
who's
one.
16 years old and is a homegrown talent. Although his nationality is listed as Ghanaian rather than from the United States.
Sure.
Shinya Shiki is a DU graduate, so he went to college
Yeah, he was
here
doing
and came
well
through
last
that
season,
program.
wasn't he?
He's great.
He was
I
very
like him.
good.
He's an absolute pest.
He's very, very fast. It would be. He's a
he's
Jamie.
very
He's
quick
almost
and-
like a Jamie Vardy-esque kind of player, I would
Yeah,
say.
he's just annoying to have to deal with. There's a couple others too. Oliver Larraz is 19. He's another Denver kid. Matt Hundley is 20 and is from Littleton. And Courtney Ford, who is a little older. He's been injured for quite some time, but he is supposed to be making his way back for the team. He's from Greeley. So there's quite a lot of players. Cole Bassett is another. There's quite a few players to kind of throw yourself behind who are local, which I'm pretty excited about. As to whether or not they'll get much game time or if they're going to make the step up from kind of those younger levels is going to remains to be seen, of course. But I'm excited for that. Although I would have enjoyed maybe one or two signings as well, obviously. But we'll see. The way the Rapids are shaping up, I'm pretty excited for this season. But
we will see.
We shall see.
I think the last couple of things we had was going to have a quick chat about shirts we'd mentioned, and then we were just going to talk about like 5 things we wanted to discuss.
Yeah, I've brought a couple of the things up that I was going to mention. That sensational Cincinnati stat.
Yeah, man.
But
unreal.
So would you like to close out with jerseys?
Yep.
So maybe the things that I highlighted as things to kind of watch. Joseph Martinez is back.
Well, he was also one of mine, so you go ahead and I'll add to that.
Well, I mean, we can both wax a bit lyrical because he was special. I watched him play. I've mentioned this game on the pod before, but he played against the Rapids in part of that Atlanta team with Almiron. And
that's when they won the MLS Cup.
Oh yeah, they were sensational. Yeah. But they came to the Rapids, who were at the time in a pretty low ebb. It was 120 degrees Fahrenheit. Yeah. It was so hot, and they were 3-0 up inside 20 minutes, and then the Rapids just became cones at that point for them, and they were just kind of just doing.
It was like
that sequence in The Simpsons. You know, when they go to the soccer game in The Simpsons and they just pass that triangle, center passes back to left, back to right. It was like that, except that we were like mobile cones for them. He was so good. His movement is incredible. I'm really hoping that his ACL injury has not
slowed him down either. That's the other thing, isn't it?
So we shall have to see.
Yeah, he's one of my favourite players to watch. And the snobbery around MLS kind of does annoy me a little bit sometimes, because I've shown people, like, look at this guy's scoring record. Look at the way he takes penalties. It wasn't Bruno Fernandes that did that first. It was Joseph Martinez did that. You know, when he does that run up with the penalties, hop, skip and a jump, and then just
the hop, skip,
just does it the other side. I don't remember him ever missing a penalty. He probably has done, but whenever I've watched him, he's never missed one. He broke the MLS record in that season where they won MLS Cup, which I think was 17-18. And then obviously for 18-19, he also had an excellent record. The start of last season, the opening game, I believe, he got
it was the first game.
The cruciate ligament and was out for up to 9 months at the time. But I think the way that, because it's Gabriel Heinze who's now the manager there.
Yeah, which is also, I read that and was like, hang on a second.
Yeah.
That Gabriel
He kind of
57 varieties,
that's right,
and so on. From what I hated him when he was at Manchester
He was the right shit house.
Oh my God, I hated him so much.
He was such a shit house. But
I just remember being at university with you and Dane and Ben and listening to, like, just bickering about Arsenal and Man United, and him just being an absolute shit house. So I'm excited. I'm imagining him as the kind of coach in the Mourinho mold where he might be poking people in the eye, but perhaps he's actually very thoughtful and
from what I've
measured.
Interestingly, from what I've read, I mean, I don't like the kind of fanboy stuff around Bielsa, although Leeds United play some very good football. They are awfully open at the back.
How much did it hurt you to just say that?
Yeah.
How much did that just hurt?
I've got a knife between my shoulder blades and just digging it straight in. But apparently, Heinz's coaching methods are very comparable to the way that Bielsa likes to play. So that would be interesting to see how somebody from an ACL injury comes back and is given double sessions every day and just press. They didn't do that. The way that, obviously, against teams that maybe fell at the first hurdle, as in when you watched them at Colorado, they did like to pass the ball about. They're very good at counter-attacking. The ball in behind is where he's strongest, because you just don't get it. He was always the one that nicked it before the keeper and then slotted it in. So I really hope this recovery goes well. I'll be absolutely gutted for him if there's a setback or, God forbid, it snaps again. And I don't want to see that.
Yeah, no, of course not. I'm just looking at his stats, by the way. MLS games. He's played 72 games, and then 73.
Over 3 seasons.
The one. Yeah. So those 3 seasons. His first season, 21 games, 19 goals. Second season, 2018, was 39 games, 35 goals, and 2019 season was 32 games, 28 goals.
He's just an absolute joke.
He also got 9 assists in that time.
He's an absolute joke.
The man is lethal.
Yeah.
So I really hope that he is back on his feet. The second thing that I had to talk about, and this one won't kick in until the middle of the season, or at least July, which I guess won't be the middle this time, but will be kind of after the first third. Bobby Wood, the US men's national team striker, is joining the
Real Salt Lake.
Yeah, I was trying to think of a civil way of pronouncing it. I should have just gone for their name. Obviously, huge rivals with the Rapids. He's joined them. He won't be coming straight away, but I'm interested to see. He's still only 28, and the World Cup in Qatar in 2022 is coming up, and
because
the US
it'll be in the winter of that as well. So you would have thought he'd get some form towards the back end of 2021, start the 2022 season, hopefully on fire for him, and national team recall and all that. Show some good form.
Yeah, so I mean, it's hard to get excited about RSL's prospects because I don't want them to do well because they're rivals with my team. But from American men's team perspective, it's exciting that he's here in the MLS, and he has goal scoring form. So hopefully he doesn't find it when he plays the Rapids in the Rocky Mountain Cup. But I think that's going to be one to keep an eye on.
Certainly.
The third thing I had to discuss, I've already mentioned, but I just want to say it again because it is just blowing my mind that Cincinnati only scored 12 goals in the regular season. They've made a couple big moves to try and counter that. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on that. I do think Luciano Acosta is a good way to go to fix that. He's been proven in the league. So that is something that I am interested to look out for. Okay, let's approach the Phil Neville-shaped elephant.
Yeah, that was one of mine also. So I think we kind of had a very similar list, to be honest. But
yeah, well, so I mean, I have one more item after this. But yeah, Phil Neville is the coach of Inter Miami.
Discuss.
Having covered himself in not glory, but not total disgrace as a coach of the England women's team.
I have something to say on that.
Okay, yeah, and I'd be interested to hear it. I'm not going to come out here and pretend to you like I am the world's most knowledgeable source of information about women's soccer at an international level.
Me neither. I know people who are, though.
I'm trying to follow along with it a lot more. And obviously the Champions League, Women's Champions League in Europe has been very exciting. And I'm hoping that this is going to hurt to say out loud, but I'm hoping that Chelsea might go on to win it.
You kind of want an English club to win it, but I mean, Man City were tonked by Barca as far as I can see.
True.
But I think they kind of showed some fight in that second leg, but I don't think it was. I don't think they were all there.
By all accounts, it doesn't really seem like Neville was particularly popular, and from the press conferences that I saw, he often made out like there was some huge media conspiracy against him. And I mean, I now know that we are on media talking about how he's not that great. So I guess we're proving him to be
I don't
slightly
think it was
true.
anything.
But
From what I know, I mean, some of the writing I do and everything else. There's a couple of people that know women's football far better than I do, and I don't think they ever were really convinced that Neville understood the women's game.
yeah,
I think that was the overall kind of feel of it. I think that they felt like he was a kind of a choice to try and grow the game because it's Phil Neville going to
it was a name rather than a talented,
and I think
or like a provenly talented coach. And I think that happens in the men's game quite frequently, right? You get players who become coaches, but they have at least been part of that game. Whereas Phil Neville obviously has never played with.
I think it was a very bad choice at the time.
It didn't seem like it worked out particularly well. I know that England had a few wins under him that were not bad, and so I don't want to completely tarnish the man's legacy, but I don't. It doesn't make a huge amount of sense to me based on his record that he's come in as this coach. But it will be interesting to see how much gas there is in this explosion. So I'm excited to keep an eye on it. Inter Miami didn't really pull up trees last season.
No,
but
they have some interesting players though. I'm sure they've signed Higuain, which could be an interesting proposition in that league.
Well, and Higuain's brother is also there.
Yes,
I believe.
they play in the same team now, so that's an interesting tidbit of knowledge.
There's also Blaise Matuidi is there. Yes. Ryan Shawcross, obviously we discussed earlier. There are Breck Shea is there. He's mullet and 3/4 length.
They've got a Brazilian defensive midfielder called Gregore, I think you pronounce it. They've spent some money on him, about 3.27 million. I understand. From EC Bahia, I believe it's pronounced. So, I mean, we'll see about that. And they've also recruited a couple of other people. Notable that I know of, Jovin Jones was at Seattle, was without a club, and Inter Miami have signed him as well. So obviously he knows the league. You've got a nice mix there of kind of people who are coming up from maybe the NASL, I believe it's called, the league underneath.
Yeah.
And then you've got some foreign imports as well as some people who have actually played in MLS before. So
yeah, it does seem to be a roster assembled a little bit by sort of filling in random names. So it'll be interesting to see how they get on under Phil Neville's leadership. Shout out to Inter Miami's crest, though, which has two, looks like stalks on there, or
it's some kind
very
of
tasteful
like that,
pink, white, and black. So
stadium
style
looks lovely. I will say their stadium looks very good. That's the one thing I like about the franchise is that you kind of get gleaming new. There's money behind it. There's gleaming
brand spanking new facilities.
Yeah, all of that sort of stuff. So it's always good to see. And obviously Beckham's always been a hero of mine. So I'd like to see them do well. I wouldn't want it to be a massive failure, but I wouldn't necessarily. I'd be a bit sceptical with Phil Neville in charge.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what he's bringing to the party, aside from his name. So one to keep an eye on there. The last point that I had to discuss was Chicharito, Javier Hernandez over at LA Galaxy. He didn't have a particularly strong season last season.
Still scored against the Sounders, though.
Well, yeah, and it's
he didn't score in a lot of games. I will give you that.
I'm trying to pull up his stats real quick. I know that obviously he is a hugely popular player in Mexico. He's 32. He's got a pretty strong goal scoring record.
Wherever he's been, to be honest.
Pretty much, yeah. So he, not criticizing the player at all, but it didn't work out particularly well for him last season. 12 games, 2 goals. One of which came against the Sounders.
I think one of the things with him was he didn't play MLS's back tournament. There was a few players that didn't, and a lot of it was to do with personal situations. Like Carlos Vela didn't, and that was because his wife was about to give birth, so he couldn't be in the bubble and then have to leave and all of that sort of stuff. So
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
it's kind of a weird situation in a lot of respects. But his goal scoring record is usually a lot better than that. I think he was out of form, and well, we'll see. I mean, he's still at LAFC, isn't he? I believe.
LA Galaxy, rather
LA
than
Galaxy,
FC,
sorry.
but yes. Yeah, and his record in, Guadalajara, he scored 26 goals in 64 appearances. United, he scored 37 in 103. Real Madrid, he got 7 in 23. So, whilst not exactly being amazingly prolific, he does score goals. His record for the Mexican national team is far better. 52 goals in 109 games. So he is. I don't want to say lethal, because that's where I'm putting Martinez if he's back fit. But he is certainly a competent goal scorer, and if they can get that clicking and get that to work, he will be a force to be reckoned with. And obviously, also MLS is always looking at how to increase attendances, and big name players are one way to do that. And I know that sounds a bit silly, but Tim Howard joined the Rapids a few years ago, definitely kind of on the way down of his career, but like the biggest games were the ones around his signing, because people just recognized the name. They recognized him from his performance for the US men's national team, and they wanted to come out and check him out because of that. So it does make a big difference here. And obviously, he's probably putting a few bums in seats in LA. Hopefully, it goes a little better for him. I hope he scores against the Sounders again, honestly.
Of course you do. The last one thing was there was a couple. We're going to sign off with some just a quick shirt chat. You were waxing lyrical about the new away Rapid shirt, I believe.
It's the away jersey. I do have to. I need 30 seconds or so to discuss. So start the clock. It's a very, very lovely white jersey with green trim, but on the shoulders is a topographic map of the 14ers, which is the mountains in Colorado that are 14,000 feet or above. So on the shoulders is a map that you can see the height elevation gain. Obviously, the Rapid Stadium is one of the higher ones. It's certainly in MLS, but also in the world. I think we're over a mile high. I've definitely seen some opposition players throw up on the field because of the running around at altitude. It's pretty funny when it happens. It's pretty miserable when you are running up here. But that jersey is beautiful. I'm slightly frustrated it's an away jersey, but I like.
I'm sure they'll play it. I'm sure they'll play it.
I'm sure they will too, and it's lovely. So I'm excited to get me one. MLS,
your home colours still shit brown?
We prefer the term burgundy, burgundy and blue.
If you've ever seen the film Accepted, the movie Accepted, they were the South Harmon Institute of Technology, and their colours were shit brown. That's what it stood for. So I associate the Colorado home jersey with that.
Well, thanks. The Sounders jersey is a repulsive shade of green, as it always is.
Well,
so,
I do love the Sounders shirt. Not the one that I was going to talk about this year. The away jersey for Seattle is fairly horrific. I don't know if you've seen it.
I have. Is it this blue?
No, it's the Jimi Hendrix shirt. They're calling it.
Oh God!
Just picture if you will. Just close your eyes. An Adidas shirt. I mean, Adidas shirts are never usually the best, but.
Well, I think the whole league's jerseys are. I'll talk about that in a second. You go on. Sorry.
So it's a dark kind of. If you've ever watched Father Ted, when you say it's not black, it's just very, 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 very dark blue, and I would go with that. And it's kind of swirly, kind of like this weird purple haze with then light.
Psychedelic.
It looks kind of like tie-dyed. With like lighter purple around it. It almost looks like, the tie-dyed effect. But then the badge and the Adidas logo and the and MLS logo on the side are bright yellow. And then the Adidas stripes on the top are bright orange. So, I mean, I don't know if Stevie Wonder picked this shirt or it was just somebody who was really, really trying to get contrasting colours to clash. But it is fairly horrific.
I will say this, and this is also to do with the Rapids as well, and this might be a league initiative, but both the Sounders and the Rapids, the sales of the jersey proceeds are going towards a charity. So for the Sounders jersey, it features a logo on the right-hand sleeve for the Puyallup tribe, who are First Nations.
Yeah, Puyallup.
Sorry, excuse me, Puyallup's tribe, who serve as the First Nation stewards of the land throughout Puget Sound in Washington State.
Yeah.
So they're going to be the charity recipient of money from that. And the Rapids jersey sales are going towards non-profit initiatives that maintain trails on 3 of the 6 Fortina mountains.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen too many charitable initiatives that are like directly tied to a jersey like that. So I think that's actually pretty awesome, to be honest.
It's a great initiative. It's just a
one. It's very
shirt.
good. It's like local to the area. So, the Rapids jersey is going for the mountains because that's kind of the thing we have here.
Yeah.
You guys have crazy psychedelic music through Jimi Hendrix. So that's what you guys are going for. The way that jerseys work in MLS is, I believe, they rotate replacing the jerseys every other year. So they are releasing a new jersey every season because you gotta get those dollar bills, y'all. But
damn straight.
They rotate home, and then they keep that home jersey for 2 years and then replace it after that. And then on the other year, they replace the away jersey. So there is always a new shirt to sell. But I just personally think that's slightly better value for consumers, rather than having to buy a new Arsenal jersey that all they've done is like move the stripes or change the red and white, or in some cases not even really do anything.
Yeah.
It is quite nice to know that you're buying a jersey that's going to last for 2 seasons instead of 1, even though that isn't, massively better for a jersey that can cost upwards of $100 in some cases. I was going to shout out the FC Dallas secondary jersey, their away strip.
Nice.
It is a sort of very nice sky blue with dark blue, white and red hoops on the sleeves and around the trim, which I think is rather nice. I'm just looking at DC United's away jersey is also quite nice, white and blue. There's a lot of white secondary jerseys going on at this season. It looks like. I'm trying to pull up the full list. I'm sure that there is a Hall of Shame for some of these somewhere. Most of these appear to be white. Oh, and a shout out to Austin FC's new jersey also, which is green, and it kind of looks like a Bournemouth kit, I think.
Nice.
With thick stripes, but instead of red and black, it's green and black. They're sponsored by Yeti, which has got to be one of the better sponsors of anywhere.
Certainly.
It's not the Abominable Snowman himself. It's a company that makes coolers and like flasks and things. But still, any jersey that has Yeti written on it in massive letters gets my vote.
The last thing I was going to mention wasn't actually MLS related. It was League Beneath. A couple
NASL chat.
No, it's not even NASL. It's beneath that.
USL.
So it's Providence City. I don't know if you're aware of them from Rhode Island. You want to search the 2019-2020 Providence City home shirt made by Hummel. You want to search that right now because that is one of my favourite shirts of all time, and I ordered it on a classic football shirt sale a couple of weeks ago.
Is this the one with the shark on it?
Yes.
Wow.
What do you think of that?
Wow. Well, first up, I'm a little frustrated because they're sponsored by a brewery.
Yes.
And I'm a little annoyed that the Rapids don't sign a partnership with any one of the many excellent breweries there are in Colorado. Yeah, because
obviously, I am currently drinking grapefruit pale ale while we record this, made by Sharp Tongue, which is, I bought it from Aldi, but it's from the Hop Foundry. So I love a craft beer, craft cider, whatever.
Craft beer in Denver is kind of ridiculous, and there are so many cool breweries that I would rather sponsor us than Transamerica, a company which I think is based in San Francisco. So I don't know, just feels like it should go local. But so for those of you who have not seen this jersey, I shall describe it to you.
Go.
Imagine the Jaws poster.
Yes.
Replace the great white shark with a hammerhead shark.
Yes.
And then put a buoy, as in a buoy, as they say here, but it just makes my skin hurt to say it that way. Floating in the ocean alongside a buxom bikini-clad lady.
Wench.
And then above her it says Revival Brewing Company. And then, to probably the pièce de résistance of the whole thing, is that the badge, the crest that players will presumably kiss having scored a goal to profess their loyalty to the club, skull and crossbones.
Yeah. So they actually play in the Amateur League, Football Alliance 1, the Bay State Soccer League. But that was a shirt that was available to me, and I had a sale code, so I bought it, and it's now gone up in price. You can get it in the UK, but you can also get it direct from them. Again, not strictly MLS, but I do love a chat about shirts, and that is one of my favourite shirts. So shout out Providence City for your good work, chaps.
Is that not a hobby of yours to collect soccer jerseys?
It might be.
I'm not being critical at all.
It might be.
Yeah. No, I wasn't trying to take shots. I think it's a great hobby. I know that you've. What is your favorite apart from obviously that one with a shark on it? I mean, it's going to take some beating. But do you have any of those crazy tuxedo ones, or perhaps that grotesque camouflage kit that came out? Who was that? That was the Spanish team, I think, that does a really crazy third jersey.
I think one of my favourites is the from 2013-14 season, Seattle Sounders third cyan and yellow jersey. You want to search that, but that's one of my favourites. It should be hideous, but I like it. That's one of my favourites. That it's very, very difficult to get hold of.
Couple classics.
As are all the best
bruised
shirts.
Banana kit, the Arsenal bruised banana is a particularly favored one of mine. I read a lot of. So I also quite like collecting jerseys. I haven't got nearly as extensive a collection as you, but there was one I particularly liked that got a lot of hate when it came out. But it was Spain's jersey for I think the 2018. It was white and it had like zigzags of yellow and red on it. I thought it was really nice.
I remember that.
Yeah,
shirt.
but
I thought that was quite nice.
Hatred.
Well, obviously, some people just are not connoisseurs in that.
I think that for some people, it's a game's gone moment. When all these people are having fun with jerseys, but then so many of these are just cookie cutter. They just come out again and again with the same garbage. And anytime a team pushes the envelope a little, I think it's quite good. But I'm trying to find it on Google, but all I searched was Spain jersey zigzags, and it hasn't really. I probably need to tighten the search terms a little bit there.
Google just telling you to be more specific, man.
Yeah, a lot of time for that one.
Well, that was
there. It is. It's not zigzags. That's why I went wrong. Imagine, if you will, a bag of cheese Doritos spilled over a jersey. They're sort of these triangular shapes over the jersey. I thought it was quite interesting, and I quite liked it, and I keep meaning to pick one up. At the time, my five-a-side team was playing in white.
I wondered where that was going when you said, imagine, if you will, a bag of cheese, and I'm glad you followed it with Doritos, because I really, the possibilities were endless.
Yeah, it appears to have bright orange Doritos spilled over it in a sort of triangular pattern. But I in my head, I remembered it as zigzags. I still like it. But I understand the reception in Spain was. I think it was for Euro. When was that?
Well, I
think it was for Euro 2020.
Maybe? Euro 2016.
No, 2020 hasn't been.
Well, 2020 hasn't happened yet.
Is it though?
Happen soon.
Is it though?
Well, it's Euro 2021. Let's be honest, but they're still calling it Euro 2020, so they have to rebrand everything.
All the T-shirts have been printed. It was the away jersey for 2016, 2017. I liked it.
Okay.
I
liked it.
Spain got a bit of soft spot for that Spanish national team and their Dorito shirt. So, what would you say your favorite is of all time, jersey wise? Yeah. I did. Yeah, you can think about it while I talk about the England away strip for the Euro '96, if you like, which was a great shirt, but can literally never be worn ever again because I do like that grey one.
Do you mean the grey one?
But the memories. Yeah. The memories.
Gaza sliding at the back post. And
you'll never live. And then the Pizza Hut commercial. I'll never live it down.
I actually think that, do you know what? I think my with the gate in there. Yeah. I think my favourite shirt of all time is obviously I'm from Hull, so Hull City are my team. And I recently, there's a Twitter account which does shirts, like retro kind of knockoffs, but they They look
Ooh,
pretty
what's the
much
website?
exactly the same as the right thing. It's called Hull City Retro Shirts. It's like a members club, and you have to like.
Please tell me
be a
you're
member
about
and
to
all that
tell
sort
me
of
it's
stuff.
going to
They're
be the
quite kind of
tiger print
protective
one.
about it. No, it's not the tiger print one. It's from that season. It's from 94, 95. But it's the jersey they only made 1,000 of. And the promotional material was Dean Windus on top of the West Stand carrying a black bin bag because it was launched around Christmas time. So it was the
It's
Needless
black. Yeah, I'm
Sweets
looking at it
one.
right
And
now
it's
with
black
the
with
and narrow
thick
orange.
white
Yeah.
and amber stripes. Yeah, it's a lovely. It's not a lovely shirt to a lot of people, but that's one of my favourite shirts of all time. And
It's
so
retailing here at £189.99, and that's in a 2XL. So presumably that is Dean Windus's shirt.
Yes. Yeah, they only made 1,000, and this retro site that I'm a member of did one of those. So that was snapped up very quickly for a fraction of the price. So thank you to Hull City Retro for that. That's probably my favourite shirt of all time that I've always wanted. Never been able to get,
and a new house to frame it in. Lovely.
Indeed.
Oh, okay.
Well, no,
you're not one of those collectors.
Like wearing my shirts. I don't have the space. Even if I've moved into a bigger house, I still am not allowed space to hang jerseys up. Imagine the scenes if that was to actually kick off. So they're on a rail in my wardrobe, fitted wardrobes, where I can then wear them
when the
occasionally.
time is right.
So yeah, when the time is right, indeed. So yeah, I think that would be that's. Probably reaches the end of the first chat of the season.
Yeah, it's great to talk to you as always.
And you, and I'm sure we'll do another one for opening weekend.
I think we should. During that one, we'll definitely talk about fantasy MLS. If anyone is interested, we'll get that going.
Yes,
so you can school us all in that.
We'll put that through the socials as well. Yeah, we'll put it through the socials. We'll do fantasy MLS just like fantasy Premier League. Maybe a bit more of a leveler because
also gives you unlimited subs, or it did in the past, which is so much nicer because then you can change your team.
My God! Imagine that in fantasy Premier League.
Yeah. No wild cards to deploy. There's a lot more weekends in MLS where it doesn't match up. Anyway, I'll let you go, mate. I will catch up with you soon. Yeah, you as always.
Yeah, good to speak to you as always.
See ya.